Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. It is Basketball Rewind, and the Raptors just won as I'm filming this. They just won against the Charlotte Hornets. I almost said New Orleans Hornets. We play New Orleans next at the time of this filming. So today we're not going to go over good, bad, and ugly. We're going to just talk about basically one topic and then go into some mailbag questions. Usually I would do them solo, but Coach is here. It's getting late and I want to do a more efficient episode. Just going to be honest with my audience. So, with that being said, how are you doing, Coach? First and foremost, before we get into the one topic.
Doing pretty good. Watched my old high school and my team I used to coach. They had a good run in provincials. They did lose in the finals, but pleased with their efforts and just pleased for the atmosphere in which they played in. It was a bit of a tough game for them, I understand, but it was, um, we could have played a little bit better, but hey, it's always next year.
Hey, man, that this when I was growing up, there was my team had gone to provincials 2 years in a row. I think had one before the year, like the year before that, and we had won a couple times too. But after that, it was a little bit on a downslope, and we struggled a couple times, so it was tough to see. But hopefully they win next year, and just the fact that they were there, that's a good experience. Today we're mainly going to be talking about Scottie Barnes because Scottie Barnes is out for the rest of the season. I'm hoping to have Amit Man coming onto the show fairly soon. I've been talking to
Hey,
him, and we're going to
nice.
talk about Scottie again because he did a piece on Scottie. I think a video piece on Scottie's improvement from the mid range last year. And so I'm assuming that he's been tracking that since. And I think it'd be a good conversation. So expect that for the coming week. But today we're going to talk about life after Scottie now that he's out and just see where the conversation goes. So, Coach, how are you feeling now that Scottie Barnes is effectively out? Does that change your outlook for the season? I can tell you mine in a second.
Yes, no, it does. It changes my outlook. It's too bad. Scotty's having a really good year. I think I think for many people he has surpassed the expectations that people had from coming in. Like as you know, I had certainly increased and improved expectations coming into this season for him, as I thought with Fred gone, that those numbers are going to go up. He's going to look more comfortable. And, he's been really good. I'm just going to say defensively this year, the way that he's a roaming help defender, the way that he's protecting the rim, especially after the All Star break, man, there was something different about him. He was attacking the rim more. He looked really good. So I'm really sad to see his season kind of possibly come to an end. I would be very cautious if I was the Raptors front office or coaching staff about playing him moving forward because it looks like it's kind of at the third metacarpal break. You would probably know more about that than I would, but it doesn't sound good. So it's too bad, but you got to take care of him first. Make sure that is 100% healed before moving forward.
Yeah, it's certainly far from ideal, for it to happen. I think what's interesting is I said if he can get up to around 34% on the year, I would deem that an improvement.
Yep.
He started much higher than that, but he shot 34.1% on the year. So, really interesting to see how that ended up. Overall improvements. I also said at the very beginning that if he gave consistent energy and effort, he would be improved as a player. But the final thing that I also added to that was I expected improvements on the defensive end. We saw that.
We're 1-0 in the post Scotty era. We could just trade him now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Since people are obsessed with trading people at any moment, you know,
Really funny.
we're 1-0. Do you remember there was the Kawhi and Lowry conversation, and it was just like, okay, so without Kawhi, we're this. So let's just trade Lowry. or let's trade. No, sorry, it was let's trade Kawhi because we don't need. We're 17-5 without Kawhi. We could trade him at the deadline, and maybe get Shea. That might not have been the worst, but you
Yeah.
certainly weren't winning a championship at that point. So, say la vie. Does this change your perspective on convey or not?
Get rid of the pick. I think we need to have full control of our pick um, moving forward. I just don't like it being in limbo for another year. 2025 will be a better draft. I think a lot of people have acknowledged, a lot of the analysts. This draft is going to be a bit more flat, as you eloquently put it. I might say, well, yeah, it's kind of bad. I don't think it's going to be bad. I don't know there's any franchise changers. There's definitely no generational talent in this. That was the last year's draft. That's this guy named Wembanyama. He's generational. He's going to be the face of the league one day. But yeah, it's hard to say. There's a lot of unknowns in this draft, and that's what makes me a little bit worried. So with that Indiana pick, that's great. That's fine. I think that will be in the spot somewhere from 13 to 20. Right now, I think it's about 17 or 16. And it could get as low as 13 from the way that I'm looking at some of the standings. That's the lowest it's probably going to get. And we had the 13th pick last year, and we did pretty good at drafting that kid out of Kansas. So that would be nice to have that pick again.
So it's
But
officially 15th right now.
it's officially 50K because Indiana, as we're recording, lost to the Spurs tonight because Wemby had another 30, 10, and 5 and 5 game. Unbelievable he is. Um, yeah, no, it does not change
It's
my
light
my
work.
opinion. We basically are going to have two first round picks anyway. That 31st pick, it's going to be that's going to be a good value pick, sure. And that 15th to 20th pick from Indiana, you can get a pretty good player there. You get a good rotation piece. I don't think you're not going to get like a the Zachary Rishishe, if I'm saying his name right, or a Dillingham or Sar. Like you're probably not going to get any of those guys, but you'll get a pretty good player with that pick. Rotation piece.
Yeah, one of the guys in the top 10 might fall. That's always something that happens every single year.
Yep.
So you might get this year's version of Kobe Buffkin or Keontae George.
Or
Now,
Cam Whitmore, maybe.
or Cam Whitmore. I don't think that there's a player that profiles to quite have that level of impact right away. And even they're taking time to kind of come on as NBA players. Ron Holland, please fall to us. But
I
other
don't
than
know.
that, I think that yeah, I agree with you. We're in a situation where you want to make sure that you treat this draft and the next two correctly. Now, I wouldn't
Yep.
trade out of this draft because I do think that you can get a value added rotation player and someone in your pipeline long term, either at specifically the guard or the center spot long term. And whether you take that with your first pick or your second pick, we could discuss that with the coming episodes that we will do because I do think that that's an interesting question. But at the same time, I look at it and I say, we're going to at least get someone who's probably going to be a good contributor for a long time, regardless of them being like a big, 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 big time piece. We need still to fill a lot of holes on this roster.
Yes. I think, look, if that pick turns into pick 15, let's just say,
Yep.
and we already have the 31st pick, you can trade into the top 10 with those two picks. 100% you can trade into the
Yes.
top 10.
Yes, you
And
can.
if there's a guy that Masai is targeting in the top 10, I think you could probably get him outside of the top 3 to 6 prospects
Yeah,
that are
you're
probably going to
looking
go.
anywhere between 5 and say 10, depending on who it is. You can definitely so Rockets are a good example. Rockets have zero incentive to tank. They have zero incentive to tank this year because OKC has one of their picks.
Yep.
OKC also has the Jazz pick. So right now, you could, because OKC has more picks than they know what to do with. You can definitely get one of those OKC picks for sure if you wanted to do that.
Probably could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they may not want your two 2024 picks. I'm just using that as an example, people. But point
Yeah.
is that not every single team that is there, the Bulls are another one where they might, depending on what their plans are for their off season, they might want two picks to fill out their roster, whereas you might want to move up. Now that might not be enough of a jump, but the Spurs are another one for your own pick. Ironically.
Get our own pick back by trading the 15th or the 15th and the
15th and 30.
31st
Can
pick.
you imagine the riots that would happen?
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
and then the other one, depending on where if Detroit ends up out of the lottery because the lottery isn't in their favor, maybe they're a team because they want to get better. So
Yeah.
I'm always going to look at Detroit as a good potential. They might be okay with taking those two picks because they don't need a top talent, but they want to fill out their roster in other ways. There's a whole bunch of things that could happen. I'm just using these as examples, people. Um, so don't get too fixated on one particular move or the other. You were
Well,
gonna say something, Coach.
I don't think Memphis is too aggressive to, take a step back either. You might be able to get their pick quite
Them too.
possibly because they're in win now mode and they got GG Jackson, my guy. I mean, he's still going to be like 19 years old going into next season, which is unbelievable.
That team's also very expensive too.
Yeah.
They were
So
just
that
made a trade to get off money so that they're not in the apron.
exactly. So if you were to package our pick and that 31st pick to move up to get their pick, which could be that fifth or sixth, that's something to consider as well. Because if Ron Holland is there, or the Saloon Kid, or the Busilis, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, or Cody Williams, any of these guys, if any of those guys are there, I think it's something to consider because we need front court help.
Yeah, the I think Memphis is a very interesting one. They were the
Mhm.
other one. I just didn't want to rip off like half of the the squads at that range, but Memphis is an interesting one for the exact reason. Number one, you get a second rounder, which is good financially, and they're in a situation where they want to be smart financially moving forward with Desmond Bane's contract now hitting their books, with John Morant, with Triple J, who has already been paid. That's three guys that are around a max or near max. Uh, John Morant obviously being, depending on what he wins moving forward, potentially becoming into a supermax guy. Team is already expensive, so cheap labor is never a bad thing, and they have guys in their system that they probably want to continue to foster rather than bringing in too many guys that probably won't factor into a rotation. So that's a place where they can again fill out the back end of the roster without looking for a guy who needs minutes right away for at least one of those picks. And if people are wondering, why would they do it? Luke Kennard, I believe, makes a lot of money, and they could use some cap relief for that. Maybe that's your Bruce Brown trade. Okay, so with that
You're
being
onto
said,
something there.
we just sorted something out.
Hey, Kennard and six for Brown, and we'll give you both of those picks.
Yes, that's a good example. So moving into the rest of the season, I'm not going to say a number of what they plan to win. Obviously, we won just now today, but personally, I don't think that we're quite as down bad as people are saying. And I think it gives you an opportunity to evaluate a lot of the other guys on your roster. The sad thing is obviously with Scottie Barnes being out, he was one of the guys I was looking forward to seeing what do we have. And I agree with you, it was sad because he went down at a time when, right before the All Star break, there was obviously, issues in terms of his, I guess, the quote unquote, the tude on the court at times. But at the same, with the same breath, he was playing the best ball of his life and more consistently overall coming out of the break. So it would have been interesting. Now, I was still lower on the team than a lot of others because we're a young team, and I think people need to realize that we're not 6 months away from being a 500 basketball team.
We might be 2 years away. Who knows?
Might be 2 years, might be three, might be four. I'm leaning more towards the three, so I'm still optimistic, people. But you know, it might be longer than 6 to 10 months.
Yeah, I think they have 3 years to do this. I know I've heard some people say, "Oh, got to give them five."
Yeah.
NBA doesn't work quite like that today.
Oh,
There's not
things
as
move
much
so fast. 5 years
things.
is
Yeah,
eons.
things move pretty fast. People's patience wear a bit thinner. I think I would give this front office 3 years to see to see what you have, and it's not to so much to say, okay, we are contending for a title, but you got to be comfortably in the playoffs, in my opinion. Like you got to be trying to think here. You got to be
If you're looking at
probably
getting home
Cleveland.
court, even
You
right?
got to be like the Cleveland, the Knicks. I'm not saying you got to be Boston or Milwaukee, but you got to be that 3 to 6 seed. You got to be in there in about 2 to 3 years from now, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, and I would say even the 3 year mark is like you might push for that in the in the third year, or in I guess the second year, and then you flame out, kind of like how the Magic did, right? They flew high and then they fell back down to earth.
Yeah,
And that's what happens with young teams, right? You'll do really well. Like someone was like, "Oh man, like we could be the Magic," and I'm like, "Magic are they start off well, but they came back down to earth." So it's an 82 game season. That's part of it. You have guys coming in, but I'm also looking forward to things at the end of this year. Grady, I've never been super low on for sure. I've never been as high as I was for Case and Wallace, but
that is true. That
that
is
is
true,
true.
people.
But I have said be patient. This is going to take time, and he's blowing past my expectations in terms of I thought he was going to shoot 35% from three in his first year. I did not look at what the updated number is. I'm going to look it up in just a second, but he's been shooting at times since being inserted back into the lineup 40+%. He's 37.8 and rising.
It's making the case to he definitely deserves more minutes. He deserves, to me, about 25 minutes a night, which is about, well, it's 12, a little over 12 minutes per half, and I think he can certainly give you that. But he's making the case to start next year, and I don't think this team is going to spend a ton of money in free agency. So I don't think it fits their timeline. So you could have a backcourt of Quickly and Grady, if you want to do it that way, starting next year with RJ playing the three and then Scottie and likely Pirtles playing the five next year. And that's I like the balance, quite frankly, on that team. Offensively, I like the balance. Defensively, that's a gonna have to see more of. I'm being kind when I say that because I think we just definitely need some defensive upgrades moving forward.
You know, balance is an interesting term to use. And where I
Mm.
go from that is this. I'm wondering if, because to me, I want to get as much talent as possible, but at least for next year, because we won't have our own pick. And I don't think it's hyper consequential who obviously you want to pick someone good with what we have, but I don't think it's like, you need to have that guy and get it perfect this year. So how important do you think balance is going to be for next year? Because in a developmental situation, I actually think it's pretty important.
I think the way that this team is after the trades and stuff, even though this team isn't, I don't think this team is as good as when we had Siakam, but we can say that this team probably has had, this is the most balanced the team has had in quite a few years, actually. We know how bad it was for 2 or 3 years before that. Like it was bad. It was so many guys with 6'9" with this similar skill sets, no 7-footer, one point guard, and that's not balanced to me. Now I
And a
get it right now.
center with a bum knee.
Yeah, this is
On
pretty
the
much.
first day of NBA season, Masai
I
gave to
know.
me.
That's a good one. We'll have to use that. That's good. No, but the way that I look at it, okay, you get your point guard quickly, check. Uh, Grady, you know, spot up shooter, movement shooter, pretty good to get into the rim. So there's a bit of balance there in the backcourt. Like these guys have offensive upside with them. RJ's probably your best one-on-one player on offense right now. Scottie is the glue that makes this go. He does a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
Certainly what he brings on defense, protecting the rim, but also when he is attacking the hoop, he's a big body. He's tough to stop. So he makes this work. He makes this go. And then you
It's
got
very, very
Pirtle,
much the straw that stirs the drink.
exactly. And Pirtle, well, look, we saw when Pirtle was out how bad this team kind of was. He does have he is pretty good protecting the rim. He is pretty good in the mid post. Now, and we know that he can't stretch the floor, but Hurdle with this group probably isn't too bad because this group isn't so much clogging up space in the paint. It's only going to be Scottie and Pirtle to a degree, and that's it. Because when you had Scottie and you had Siakam and you had Pirtle, and at times you had OG in there as well, because he loved to post up thinking he was Zion. Um, it was tough out there. So that's where I'm speaking about balance. So if you have shooters around Scottie, Quickly, and Grady, RJ is actually becoming he's a mid-range jump shot away from being really good. He's a
That
pretty good
a
set
little
shooter.
bit of better decision making, but yeah, I
Yep.
agree. So it's for RJ. I was gonna ask something, but then I answered the question. I was gonna ask about his role with Team Canada, and maybe that might help with it. But depending on who's there, because he
Hey,
might be
RJ
fourth
should
down the
start.
pecking order, that might not help him. But in other cases, it might.
Yeah. Hell, he should start for Team Canada. I don't think
He should be.
there's yeah, no, I think you was Shea and Jamal Murray in the backcourt.
Yes.
RJ definitely starting. The two other guys after that, I'm not sure. Probably Dylan Brooks, probably.
Oh yeah,
And then
Brooks will be there. The
yeah,
question
he could.
is the true forward spots. Who's because you might not get Jamal Murray.
You're saying Jamal Murray, he might not get it for the Olympics.
I mean, it depends on how deep that playoff run is.
Yeah, that's true. I think you'll get him. I think a lot of these players realize like this might be their only chance,
Well, I'm just
really, if
saying,
they want to.
what if he's
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
gimping
yeah.
around and
He
stuff,
wasn't
and
ready last time.
they don't clear him. So I,
It's true.
but to your point, there's enough people. I mean, they basically said there's one spot open on the U.S. roster. This is by Shams the other day. So and we saw the squad.
Yep.
They're not playing around. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to go too into the team because it is interesting though. But we have to do more episodes on it. But
Yeah.
you hope
Well,
that they bring their A game. You were saying?
we were asked a question. You and I were in a space. I remember the guy had
Mm.
asked us, "Do you think RJ is a championship piece, or sorry, is he a piece
Yeah,
on a
a
championship team?"
winning
Like,
player. It
oh,
was a very
yeah,
interesting question.
it's an interesting question. And I just said, well, it's too early to tell. We won't really know until this team is contending if he is that piece. But I'm willing to wait to see. Um, for the RJ that I've seen since he's been in Toronto, he's been really good. And I tweeted out when that trade happened, you're going to have a very highly motivated RJ Barrett. And he's the guy that I'm particularly looking forward to seeing. And ever since he's been here, he's been really good on offense. His defense been below average to average. I'll give him that at best average. But everything else is looking real good, and it's almost like his career trajectory has gone up even more since he's been here. Like he was that third pick in the Zion draft. Everyone was like, "Oh man, this was the Zion and Ja draft." I'm not saying RJ is in their guys' caliber, but he's proven to be he's developed into a really good player. And unlike those guys, a dependable player.
I was gonna say he actually stays on the court
Yeah, he
from a
stays
health
on the court.
standpoint.
Yep.
Both the other two guys, just focusing on the health people, they've struggled to stay on the court.
Mm.
And so, some of the best stability is availability, but also I think RJ has really he's come into his own here, and I'm just excited to see him grow as a player. I like his game. I like him as a player. I'm not you know misrepresenting and to say he's going to be like some all-time world beater, but he's a dependable player. And to be fair, the last time I saw the Knicks in the playoffs, he was one of the dudes that showed up.
He did. He's the one player. He's one of the few players on this team I don't worry about,
No,
and I have an idea what I'm going to get from him every night.
and you need that. The other thing too is, frankly, with this front office, I don't want a guy that they have to negotiate with on top of the other dudes that they have to negotiate with from a salary standpoint. So he's locked up for a couple years. I think there's what, 4 more years left of
I
him.
think he's got after this year. Then I think it's 3 years. So
So
yeah,
three,
he's on
three,
the
yeah,
yeah.
works for me.
Hey, the executive said he's got a toxic contract. I don't know. It doesn't look too toxic to me. The way he's been playing in Toronto.
Hey man, their loss. Uh, we'll see about the availability of the other guy going the other way.
Hey,
So
no, they get that experience now. Sorry, Knicks fans, but
they're now complaining about that experience too.
uh,
So with that being said, I think we've covered that topic. So let's get into the mailbag, and then let's skedaddle.
ooh, mailbag.
Okay. So I'm only going to pronounce the first name here. I believe it's Allah from I believe Raptors Rapture, if I'm saying that correctly. If not, leave a comment down below. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe Raptors Rapture is where he primarily is found. But he
Nice.
asked us to talk about draft prospects. And I think it was just kind of a generalized kind of topic. I'm going to ask you in terms of your philosophy. Again, this is with the assumption that we're not going to pick with our own pick. That pick is the Spurs pick.
Hmm.
Philosophy wise, based on what we talked about tonight, forget about the specifics of a trade. Would you rather those two pick with those two picks, or would you rather try to move up with Memphis or even say, I guess it depends on where they end up, but would you want to move up basically with them, or say Chicago?
If it was me, I'm moving up if I can.
And you're not
I want to.
moving back.
No, no, no.
I
I'm not
agree
moving
with that.
back. I think this team needs talent. Period. Now we stay where we're at. Fine. You get a chance to get maybe a couple rotation pieces, but in
Mhm.
any draft, even this one, I know it's not like it's 2025 because you will have no opportunity to move up in that draft. I don't see it. But this is the
Next
one
two.
draft. Yeah,
And
this
we have
draft,
2 picks for 2026, which is nice.
which is nice. Now, this draft, there's a chance to move up. And if you can move into the top seven, top eight, possibly, if it's there, I'm going for it. I want to try to get a good talent. We've spoken about some already, like Ron
Mhm.
Holland certainly is going to be there. I think the Rishi Shea kid is going to be there. Um, Busilis, probably saying his name wrong, but he's going to be there.
Yep.
Some of these guys are going to be these top 5 to 7 picks, and man, if you can get in there, you get. I think that would be my philosophy. What do I have to give up to get to move up?
Like, imagine if Ron Holland was there at the Grizzlies spot. Now they could take him.
They could,
You're
and it'd be
like, please don't.
interesting. Yeah, well, they got Gigi, they got Zaire Williams,
They
they got
got
a lot
Desmond
of
Bain,
guys. Desmond Bain,
and they also have Aldama too.
yeah, like a guy like Philip Kowski, he makes actually a ton of sense for them. They need a center. They need someone that could go play alongside Jaron Jackson Jr. So
This is exactly where I was going with that. Is that short of them getting high enough to pick Alex Sarr, and I don't know if he is the right fit beside Jaren Jackson Jr. Defensively, probably closer, but offensively, not quite there. So, I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, to answer my own question, I would move up if
I
it's
would,
possible. I wouldn't move back. And then I'll just also ask, in terms of moving out of the draft, would you consider that entirely, except for maybe the 31st?
that
If
would
if
depend.
you could get a 2020, say not 2025, but say you could go and get a 2027, would you do
I probably wouldn't. Um, 2025, yeah, I would consider it.
it?
Um,
Yeah, I'm with
I,
you.
I I would consider it. I don't know if I'd want to go that far ahead because we still have our 2027 pick,
Yeah,
so that I'm fine with. If I'm moving out of this draft, I want to be I want a player who can come in now.
right.
And basically, if I'm moving out, like I want probably a starter if I'm moving out of this draft. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see that as being available.
Yeah, so I think the Raptors' goal should be to move up into this draft. Whoever they're targeting, we've always heard how Masai targeted Giannis, but a deal couldn't get done. We always heard that he targeted Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but they couldn't get a deal done.
Yep.
So who knows if there's a Giannis or a Shea in this draft? I don't think there is. But even when they got selected, nobody dreamed that they would be as good as they are today. So
Well,
if
his
there's
appetite
someone
for risk might be different too. Now that he
that is,
knows he has at least Scottie Barnes and some pieces, I hope they value Grady as much
yeah.
as we do. So,
Who are you targeting? I don't mean specific player, but what are you looking for in this draft if it's you?
not everything that I want is available.
That's fair.
So I would love a point guard that's 6'5" and above. That I think that could really slot in nicely. You know, who could give good downhill pressure. That's just not available. So based on what we've looked at so far, I would love a wing who could defend really well and has offensive upside, but it doesn't have to be insane upside. It's just, essentially, I want a better version of what OG provided. Someone who's tenacious on defense, can stop your best players from having to play all of those minutes, but also shows a little bit of extra oomph on the offensive end than OG would. And I mean, I don't see anyone, to quote Beyond, I don't see anyone in this draft that looks like they're running around with a piano on their back. So from that standpoint, I think that there's some
That's a good one.
positives there.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a couple guys. I do have guys in mind. I won't say all the names. Obviously, we've talked about Ron Holland. Um, you know, but also I think if they can get a big, that would be my, now I'm prioritizing that as number two because I'm willing to be patient to get the right big. And it takes time to develop them, but I'm okay with getting someone in your pipeline. The other reason
Yep.
why I would keep the two is because, again, that pipeline needs work. And if you have someone in your pipeline, at least one of them, I mean, if we can go to Summer League, Grady is probably going to be at Summer League. Um, Javon will be at Summer League apparently now, and a couple other players. Now you have a Summer League squad and you can actually get a gauge as to what you have.
Yep.
Whereas instead of having Grady and a bunch of dudes who no one knows, no one's gonna know, and most people won't even remember half of the people that are on the that team. No offense to anyone on that team, but it's just the truth. There's a couple people that made the 905, but even them, some of them got cut. To be honest, so I think that there's that's kind of where I'm at. What about you?
Well, I think Javon Freeman, Liberty, and Jonte Porter have been really bright spots of the 905. I know it's been a tough season for them, although I think they're playing better lately. And Marquise Noel, I think he was going to be named an all-star, but he got hurt, so he hasn't played a whole lot since then. So I do think the G League team is in better standing than it was last year. Last year was the worst summer league team I've seen since I've been watching summer league. Like it
It
was
was
not
pretty
good.
bad.
It was bad.
I'm sure that there
The
were other ones. I know like there was times when like I would hear about the Charlotte Hornets. It's like, what are they doing? But at least they had multiple lottery picks on that team.
Yes. So I think if you were to add a good solid piece to that team, probably it's a front court player. I think you could see Jonte Porter maybe playing on the summer league team. I think that would be good if he did.
Yeah,
I
that would be
mean,
perfect.
if you were to add Jonte and Grady and Freeman Liberty and Noel, well, there's one spot left, and that's for someone who can play that forward position.
Well, I guess.
So
Well, I'm thinking if you add the two picks that we have,
exactly,
presumably,
and one of them might be that forward. It might be a Richiche or Cody Williams or Ron Holland or Bucilis or Saloon. Just looking at a few. Maybe it's a Filipkowski.
I'd move up for Cody. By the way.
Maybe it's Tyler Smith in the Jig League. Tyler
Yeah.
Smith is playing really well since Ron Holland has gone down, or Kalel
Yes.
Ware. I mean,
Yes.
there are, or my guy Ulrich. Man, maybe he goes in the draft and you bring him over and he doesn't
Maybe
go to
you reach
college.
because you could always
Yeah.
do that too. Like, say there's no deal to move up, you could always take a reach with the first one. I mean, it's just see what you have.
Or the guy who's gaining a lot of traction too is Deron Holmes the second, 6'10 junior, and he's shooting 38% from three. He's averaging 20 and 8 and
Right.
2.5 blocks on the year. So, and he's got really good advanced numbers too. I think he's another guy that's very interesting, and I think he would actually fit on this team moving forward. So, plenty of options, and he's a junior. He's not like you get to teach him. It's not like he's a freshman. He'll be 20. He'll basically be almost 22 when the season starts. So, like he's ready to go.
So what you're saying is you're not taking Bronny James. I just I want to
Uh,
say, remember at the beginning of this, I said I don't know. He's gonna probably stay in the second round, and I think it's he may end up taking an extra year.
well, here's my opinion. Yes, he should take another year for
There's
his own
talent there though.
development. There's talent. He's a good perimeter defender. I love it. Great form, shot form, good athlete. Um, I like how Rich Paul and them came out today and said, well, we're not really looking at where he's going to get selected. It's, or in terms of the draft selection, it's where do we want him to go play? Where do we feel are the best spots for him? Which is code for, well, where else would LeBron mind playing? So I don't know. I find that a bit like them using their power a little bit with clutch
Yeah, I don't
sports
I
too
don't
much.
I feel like we're not a franchise that has the infrastructure that's ready to deal with that right now.
To me, that was code for if you're a market we don't like, we're not going there.
Yeah,
And Bronny James coming to Canada, yeah, it's hard to say that will happen. They'll be looking at the LA markets, the Miami, the Knicks. They'll be trying to look at those big markets.
that's tough, man. I don't know if I'd want to put my franchise in that situation for a guy that is frankly 40 years old. It is big money though. Those jersey sales would be crazy. I hope to goodness gracious that the Raptors do not do this
I don't
because
see them doing that.
I don't think so, but I really hope because it's with Bronny James if he comes and like LeBron doesn't, that's fine. But
I wouldn't mind that. I think that'd be so good for his.
it would
I
be.
could see, I could see the argument where like, okay, my dad's there, it's my first year. Like, there's some kind of protection in that sense, which a lot of rookies might go through that they don't really have that
Well,
kind of
also,
support
how long
even during.
are you doing this LeBron thing, right?
Exactly.
Because
I mean,
you need to have a team that's ready to go with LeBron.
yeah, I just hope he carves out his own journey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot being the son of one of the greatest top two or three players to ever play. And I think a lot of people know, okay, he's not quite the talent that the old man is, but he's got a chance to be, I think,
An
an
NBA
okay
player.
a rotational NBA player. Right? I'd have to see.
And Bryce is coming up soon as well.
Yeah, so I hope he finds a good spot where he can just kind of carve out his own thing in the NBA,
Mhm.
quite frankly.
I agree. I think on that note, we're going to go to our final question. I didn't really promote it really well, so next time I'll do a better job, people, of promoting my mailbags. I do them honestly impromptu. I'm just like, hey, thinking of maybe even I think I said, you know, if anyone has any random question and they want me to ask a video of it, I might do a mailbag. Perhaps it's time to do a mailbag. So it wasn't the most advertised thing, but anyone who responded or asked a question, I appreciate it so much, and they will be on screen as always. But also, I just appreciate the support. Okay, this is from IKD. ESPN needs IKD. He says, "This I will put this on the screen. What do you? Sorry, what would you like to see from Grady, IQ, RJ down the stretch? Here from an individual standpoint and a team standpoint. That's the first thing. The other thing is more difficult, which is what would you like to see from Coach Darko down the stretch as well? Do you
Hmm.
want to go first, Coach?
We might need some time to think about that. You get something?
I mean, we can answer that in the second part in the next one. I think so. It was. I will save the coaching standpoint for next week, and then Beyond can also chime in
Well,
as
I can
well.
answer the second one's easier for me to
Oh, you
answer
think
than
the
the
second?
first
Okay,
one.
fine. So we'll do it reverse
Yeah.
then.
Okay. So the Darko question. If I'm Darko, I'm just trying to make sure my rotations are basically somewhat similar each game. Uh, Grady and RJ and Quickly and Ochai, these guys need minutes. They need time to go.
Right.
Those four right now are your four young pieces. I'm just saying this because Scottie's not there. But these four, you have to get a good look at these guys to see what you have moving forward. So I want these guys hopefully to play a fair amount of minutes together. I know in this game, Ochai started against Charlotte. I actually thought he did fairly well out there. He had a nice block on Miles Bridges. He made a nice alley oop dunk on Bertans, I think it was. So I want to see him get lots of minutes, much as possible. I think he didn't quite get the opportunity in Utah, but maybe sometimes a change of scenery is a good thing. So I want to see RJ and Quickly and Grady. Certainly Grady, I want to see him get around 25 minutes. RJ and Quickly, I'm looking at 30 to 34 minutes a night for them together. Um, Possibly looking more at, playing Olynyk. I want to see them get Freeman Liberty in the game. You just signed him to a contract. You're not going anywhere this year. Like, if Grady's going to be getting Gary Trentman next year, assuming he's not back, Gary, Freeman Liberty's going to have to get some minutes next year. Like,
Right.
he's the lead scorer in the G League. Play him. See what you got.
Wait, in all the G League?
Yeah, he's a lead scorer
Because I've
in the
been
G
watching
League.
some of the games, but I haven't really been tracking the stats per se. Um,
I'm pretty
no,
sure.
no, no. I'm not arguing with you. I
Oh no,
vaguely
no.
have
I
heard
just
this as
for
well.
our audience, I just want to
Right.
make sure that I am correct on that.
But yeah, I think from just an individual standpoint in terms of Darko, I think yeah, I agree. NBA players are creatures of habit, and I think you want to build habits long term. I think Grady is probably the second most important player on this team. That might come as a shock to some people, but that's how high of a priority that I think he is. I think he has that game, and I think long term, I mean, he's one of the guys that you have guaranteed money for 3 years
Mhm.
after this. So
Yeah. Sorry, he was, but he's
he's
at
been
about 20.
surpassed.
He's it's at about 24 per game
Mhm.
on the year, which is still really high. Um, Trying to look here. Okay, yeah, sorry. He is tied for second. Oh, one guy is point 0.1 ahead of him. We'll just say he's first.
Fair enough. So he's close enough. But yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of the coaching, uh, really it's just consistency, and I want to know. He doesn't have to voice the plan, but game to game, sometimes you think, well, what was the purpose? What are they trying to learn?
Yeah.
And I don't really see a concrete. With Casey, you got it. It's like this is what this person's role is. This is what they're working on rebounding, or they're work. I want a concrete. Grady's working on screens, and I think that either they're trying to do too much with too many guys, or trying to appease too many people. Part of this is on obviously the front office, but all in all, and I think we are in a positively trending place. I think we're the future's bright, but it's gonna take time to get to the light. Whereas
Yeah.
some people think that the light's right there.
Oh yeah, no, no. It takes time to get into the light.
Mhm.
Lights at the end of the lights at the end of the tunnel. We just get into the tunnel.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but on I think what I like to see more is, and I've said this to you and beyond, this coaching staff has this habit of being like with the clipboard. Okay, you're at the 6 minute mark. Okay, time to come out. Like if Brady or if RJ or if Ochai, let's just say someone's rolling, man, and they can't miss. I
Which we've
don't want
seen.
to see them come out of the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. That's one of the
Let
worst
them at
things you
least
can
miss
do.
2, 3 shots first when they're on a
Yes,
heater.
if they get in foul, now if they get in foul trouble or if they miss a couple, fine. I understand that. Or if they literally go, oh, my basket, I need a sub. If you just see like they're grabbing their shorts, then you kind of have an idea. But like if they're not tired and they're not asking for a sub and they're not in foul trouble, leave them in. Leave them until they miss. They're like 20. Most of these guys are anywhere from 20 to 23 years old.
That's
It's
the biggest
okay.
thing is you want just that growth. I don't know if we'll see it in rapid enough time period based on the fact that we don't have a lot of time left in the season, but any growth is good. They got a pizza party. We're going to talk more about the pizza party next time on
I had mine
Basketball Rewind.
yesterday.
Yes, Domino's has it 50% off. I
50%
don't know for
off.
how long, but they do have it 50% off. So
Probably when we release. No, I think today was the last day.
today was the
So
last day.
when
So
so
you
people,
missed
when
it,
you see
people.
this,
Hopefully you
or
didn't
if
go
you missed
hungry.
it,
Hopefully you got some pizza. With that being
yes,
said, it's been Basketball Rewind. It's been an episode. Hopefully you had some fun. IKD, gonna answer the next part of your question in the next episode. Take care and peace.